Welcome back to the book of Genesis. Thank you for returning. Now we in Genesis chapter 30, and we're going to get started momentarily on that. But before we go to chapter 30, let's talk about what happened in chapter 29. In chapter 29, Jacob found himself stuck in Laban's house, his uncle Laban. He's stuck there now. He's going to be there for a long time. And a matter of fact, Jacob's going to be there for 20 years before he's going to have to escape. And then he married, his wife, Leah. Leah became his wife. He didn't want her to become his wife, but she did because his uncle Laban tricked him. And then he married Rachel, the one he really wanted. He worked so hard for it. Now, Jacob said he would work 7 years for Rachel, but he ended up working 14 years for Rachel because his uncle Laban has deceived him in a very big way. And so now, before we get to all these children that Jacob's going to have in chapter 30, he's going to have 8 kids in chapter 30. And then in chapter 29, Jacob had 4 sons. And now we're going to get started into chapter 30, Genesis chapter 30, when Jacob's going to have 8 more sons, and he's going to have a daughter, and her name would be Dana. And this is the only daughter that we know that Jacob had. So let's get started in Genesis chapter 30. And when Rachel saw that she bare Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister and said unto Jacob, "Give me children, or else I die." Now, Rachel haven't had any kids yet. Now, Jacob loved Rachel. This is the one he worked so hard for, and she haven't bare him any children. So Rachel is feeling, like I say, some kind of way, and now she's envying her sister Leah, because Leah is Jacob's wife also. Well, Leah done had 4 children already by Jacob. And Rachel and Leah, like we said earlier in chapter 29, Rachel and Leah are sisters. And here's Rachel. She see that her sister Leah had bare Jacob 4 sons. And here it is, she bare him none. And look what she said here. Rachel envied her sister and said to Jacob, "Give me children, or else I die." She's in a desperate situation. She feeling like she has to, compete for some reason or another. But she feel that she has to compete with her sister Leah, because she said, "Else I die." She feel like she's losing the battle. She feel like perhaps she'll be losing her husband, Jacob. And so now she's coming to Jacob complaining, like he's going to be able to do something about it. She come to Jacob saying, "Listen, give me some children or else I die." So I think that Rachel is feeling very, very left out. I think she's feeling very, weak at this point, because now look what she said, "Else I die." Now, Leah had brought 4 children, had bare 4 children for Jacob, and Jacob still haven't shown the love and affection to Leah as he's showing to Rachel. But since Rachel just haven't had any kids, she is very, very upset. She's kind of angry, and we're going to see what she do. Now, watch right here in verse 2. "And Jacob anger was kindled against Rachel, and he said, Am I in the Lord's stead, who hath withheld from thee the fruits of the womb?" Now Jacob said to his wife Rachel, he said, "Listen, what do I have to do with you having kids? That's had nothing to do with me. You are my wife. I love you. You're my favorite. I'm always with you. We always intimate together. And because you haven't had any kids, I have nothing to do with that." He was angry with Rachel for her even suggesting that he had something to do with her not having children. Because we know it's not Jacob's fault, because Jacob done had 4 kids already with Leah. So Jacob said, "I'm not responsible for opening and closing the wombs of women. That's God." He said, "I'm in God's place. I'm not in God's place at all. You're asking me to do something that has nothing to do with. You're blaming me, or you're causing me to feel this kind of way as if I'm to blame for you not having children." And so I want to read that again. Jacob's anger was kindled against Rachel and said, "Am I in God's stead, who hath withheld from thee the fruits of the womb?" Jacob said, "Don't blame this on me. I'm not God. I hadn't held you from the fruits of the womb. I hadn't stopped you from having babies. I haven't stopped you from getting pregnant. That has nothing to do with me. My other wife, Leah, your sister, she didn't have 4 boys, so don't blame me, right? That's what Jacob is saying here, right? Now here it is, verse 3. And she said, behold, my maiden Bilhah, go into her, and she shall bear upon my knees, and I may also have children by her. Now, this was a tradition. This was a normal tradition in that generation and in that land, that when a woman was bearing, other women or another woman could have a child for her. And when this other woman get pregnant and had a child for her, she would become that child's mother. And so this is Rachel's idea of having children, because she's barren at this point. And she said, behold, my maiden Bilhah, go into her, and she shall bear me a child, right? So now let's look right here. Remember, we talked about in verse 29, not verse 29, but chapter 29, when we talked about that Jacob is going to have 12 boys. He's going to have 12 boys and 1 daughter. And these 12 boys are going to be the 12 tribes of Israel. And he's going to have 1 daughter. Her name is going to be Dana, right? But we see right now that Jacob had 4 children by Leah. And now he's going to have some more kids by Bilhah. Okay, so that's how all these boys is going to come about. Okay, Rachel's not going to have all of them, and Leah, his other wife, is not going to have all of them. So it's going to be Rachel, it's going to be Leah, and it's going to be Rachel handmaiden, and it's going to be Leah handmaiden. And all these kids are going to come from these 4 women, and these going to be Jacob's 12 boys and 1 daughter. Now, and Bilhah conceived and bare Jacob a son. And Rachel said, God hath judged me, and hath also heard my voice, and hath given me a son. Therefore call his name Dan. Now this is Jacob's 5th son. Jacob got 5 sons now. This son is not by Rachel, but Rachel would be the mother. But this son is by Bilhah, Rachel handmaiden. So now we see Jacob has 5 sons. And this 5th son right here, his name is going to be Dan. Now here it is right here. And Bilhah, Rachel's maiden, conceived again and bare Jacob a 2nd son. And Rachel said, with great wrestling have I wrestled with my sister, and I have prevailed. And she called his name Naphtali. Naphtali. Okay. Now this is Jacob's 6 sons. Okay. That's 4 in chapter 29. And then 2 right here. You got Dan and Naphtali. So look what Rachel said. Remember I said up here in verse 1 that she is competing with her sister Leah. Now she don't have to compete, but she feel like she does because she's not having any kids by her husband Jacob, and her sister Leah had 4 boys already, and so she's competing with her sister Leah. Now the reason why I said she don't have to do that, because she knows that Jacob loved her more than he loved his other wife Leah. She knows that. She knows that Jacob worked 14 years for her. And he knows that Jacob never wanted Leah to be his wife. He acquired her as a wife by the trick of his uncle Laban. And so Rachel, I know why she's feeling this way. I guess because, just not having any children and not having any sons at all, she feel like that she has to compete. She don't have to compete, but she feels like she has to, because her sister Leah is winning the battle. That's what she's thinking. Her sister is winning. She didn't have 4 sons already by Jacob. And here's Rachel didn't have any children at all by Jacob. And now she feel like she's losing the battle. And the reason why I say that, because she says down here, and Rachel said, with great wrestling. Look, she was wrestling with her sister. Have I wrestled with my sister? And I have prevailed. She's saying that she has prevailed. I don't know why she said that she had prevailed. She only got 2 boys, right? And Leah got 4, but she feel like now that she's back in this race, and she feel like she has prevailed, and she called the name Naphtali. And now let's go to verse 9. And when Leah saw that she was left bearing, she took Zilpah, her maiden, and gave her Jacob to wife. Now, here it is. This thing is getting out of control, right? This competition between Rachel and Leah is getting to the point that it's so severe that poor old Jacob is caught in the middle. Jacob is caught in the middle of these two wives of his, and they are sisters, but he caught in the middle between these two wives of his, and he just like, geez, what in the world did I get myself into? So Rachel is wrestling with her sister. Here it is, Rachel. She envied her sister Leah. And so she told Jacob, listen, I want to have some sons by my maiden. So she got two. And then down here, Rachel said she wrestled with her sister. And then guess what? She said, I won. I beat my sister. She only had two boys, but she felt like that she won, right? And now here it is, Leah, she responded to this. Now Jacob, he's caught in the middle. And so what Rachel did is Rachel said, okay, I can't have any children. So you go into my handmaiden Bilhah, and then you bear children she's going to bear children for me, right? And that worked. Remember, she got two sons. But look what Leah does. Leah's going to respond in a very different way. Because they're wrestling, they're battling each other. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think they're battling for the love of Jacob, right? This is just a sister thing that's going on here. They want to be, the one that I guess would prevail over the other. They want to be the one that feel like they're winning. This is a sister rivalry. This thing going on just between sisters. Because I'm going to tell you right now, Jacob just caught in the middle. And I think they just envying each other. They just rivaling and riving against each other. And Jacob, he just sitting on the side, and he's going to become the victim of these two sisters envying each other. Because look what Leah does right here. Now, you remember what I said earlier. I don't want to forget that. Rachel told Jacob to go into my maiden. But look what Leah did. Leah tell Jacob to marry his maiden. So now Jacob got three wives. Now look right here. And Leah saw that she was left barren. She took Zilpah, her maid, and gave her Jacob to wife. She didn't say go into my maiden Zilpah and bear me more children. No, she said no. She's gonna give her maiden to Jacob as a wife altogether. So she's trying to win this war. I don't know what in the world this war is about, but I'm here to tell you this is about sisters rivalry. This is siblings rivalry. And that's all it could possibly be, because Rachel and Leah is going back and forth. They're going back and forth. And old Poe Jacob right here, he's in the middle. He's caught between this rivalry. He's caught between these siblings, and they battle for what? Well, they battle for who's going to have control of what. I have no idea, because everybody knows that Jacob loved Rachel more than he loved Leah. Leah made more sense. She would be more reasonable one to want to get Jacob's love. But she even came to the conclusion in chapter 29 that Jacob just not going to love her just like he loved Rachel. He's just not going to do that, you see? And so that's the reason why this battle is just a sibling rivalry, just a sibling rivalry. Now, here it is, Jacob, he got three wives now. He got his first wife, which is Leah. He got his second wife, which is Rachel. And now he got his third wife, which is Zilpah. Jacob has three wives, and he has a children by a handmaiden of Rachel. And so now he's with 6 boys at this point, and he with 3 wives. And we're going to keep it moving, because look here. And Zilpah, Leah's maiden, bare Jacob a son. And Leah said, a troop cometh. And she called his name Gad. And Zilpah, Leah's maiden, bare Jacob a second son. And Leah said, happy am I, for the daughters will come, call me blessing. And she called his name Asher. Now here it is, Jacob's at 8 children now, right? 6, and then Zilpah, 7 and 8. Jacob got 8 boys right now. He has no daughters yet, but he has 8 boys, and he had 3 wives. And look right here, I want to read that again. Zilpah, Leah's maiden, gave Jacob a son, and his name is Gad. And then she gave Jacob yet another son, and his name is going to be called Asher. And so this competition between Leah and Rachel has intensified, right? It done got very serious. And like I said, poor Jacob left in the middle, and he seemed to not be, arguing with these people. Let me tell you the reason why Jacob not arguing with his wives, Leah and Rachel. He's not arguing with the handmaiden and his new wife Zilpah, and he's not arguing with the handmaiden Bella. He's not arguing with them. You know why? Because Jacob has his hands full. He's very busy working for his uncle Laban, so he don't have time to be part of this shenanigans that's going on between Leah and Rachel. He don't have time to be part of this sister rivalry. He just don't have time for it. He just listening to what they're saying. He just doing whatever they say, because Jacob is very busy with his uncle Laban, because his uncle Laban is teaching him a lot about life. His uncle Laban is actually taking full advantage of Jacob, taking full advantage of how Jacob worked and how good he worked. And Laban is taking full advantage of Jacob's blessings that is coming from the Lord. And Laban knows that, and he's going to mention it too to Jacob. He said, I know you're blessed of the Lord. Please don't leave, because Jacob is wanting to leave. Now he's going to get sick of this thing. He's already had to deal with all these women here. Now he got 8 boys over here, and then his uncle Laban is working him to death, right? So here it is. We got Asher. So now we're at 8 boys, no daughters yet. The daughter is going to be coming. Her name's going to be Dana. And then, of course, Jacob is going to have 4 more sons, and they would be the 12 tribes of Israel. But I do want to mention this, that through all of this, this is not something that's happening every day or every other week or every other month, right? This is in a 20-year span. You see, 20 years are going to elapse when Jacob's getting ready to leave in chapter 30. Jacob's going to be ready to leave in this chapter here. And 20 years has elapsed since he came into his uncle Laban's house. Remember, he left his father Isaac and his mother Rebecca, and he came all the way to the land of Haran, and he met Rachel, and he been there ever since. Now Jacob had no plans and no intentions at all of staying there. He thought he was going to be there just for a few weeks, maybe a few months. But here it is, a span of 20 years. He ended up with 3 wives, a handmaiden, right? And 12 boys and a daughter. And so we're going to continue in chapter 30 as we see Jacob's getting ready to have some more